going to take you guys on a trip to France. Since we can't actually go, I'm going to actually speak to you about a couple things about France. So we can get started. We're going to talk about is gestures. There's a lot of different gestures that they make that you wouldn't necessarily think. They actually don't start counting with their index fingers like we do. So it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4. They actually start with their thumb. That's just something very interesting that they do. Un ver de nes, closing your fist and making a rotation on your nose kind of means to the French that you're lying. So that's their own kind of little slang that they do. Also, monde, when you grab your eyelid and push it down, that means to them, I don't buy it. So it's kind of like another way of saying that you're lying. So, greetings in France are a lot different than for us. They're not very enthusiastic, so they don't. You're not gonna really find people in France kind of coming up to you and just grabbing you and giving you hugs. They're a little bit more reserved, and they actually don't smile as much as Americans, even though they might still be happy. So that's that. When you're speaking in French, their language, if it's there's a way that you can actually not disrespect, but kind of it's informal if you say in a sentence tu. So if you're speaking in French and you use that dialect, it can come off the wrong way. You want to use vos when you're speaking in their dialect. Eating etiquette in France, you always want to have your hands above the table. They really do not think that it's polite to have your hands underneath. You want to be able to see your hands at all times. Properly is very important. In France, you need to be giving direct eye contact to your toasting partner or just whoever you are toasting to. They take that very seriously. Another thing in France is don't ever expect to have a really short lunch. 43% of the French actually spend a lot of time having lunch. It's a time for them to kind of really get into whatever they need to talk about, whether that's business or whether that's just kind of catching up. They take it seriously, so don't ever expect to go to France and have a short lunch. Dating. Now in France, dating is actually, they don't have a word for it. The closest thing to it is rendezvous, and that kind of means appointment. They don't really consider dating the word that they use in France. And when you're dating, it's actually not out of the norm to go on a date on like a group. So a lot of French do that very often. Gift giving. So when you're visiting, you always want to have when you're going to a person's house or whatever and gift giving, you want to always make sure you bring something along. Wine would probably be the best, and it has to be the highest of like quality. And then the French actually don't invite you very often to their home, so if you do, then consider that a thumbs up and you're important. Business etiquette, make sure you're always addressing superiors. If you were to end up working in French as madame or monsieur, that's just the highest form of formality there, so you want to make sure you're using that with extreme politeness. And also they really do love when you have your business card in English and in French. So that's just a little bit of something about their business etiquette. so that's just a little something when it comes to France. I hope I kind of gave you a little insight on that, just to sum up what we learned as far as gestures. They have very different gestures than we do. They don't like to count normally. Make sure that you're always your hands are above the table when you're eating. Don't expect to have a short lunch, and always have a proper and high quality gift, preferably a wine. And that's just a preview of what France looks like. And that was it. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.